It's MMA Socialist. This is Carcino with Joe B and the MMA analysis. And we're back and we're discussing who was the better MMA fighter, Royce Gracie from the Gracie Clan Jiu-Jitsu or the natural Randy Couture. Guys, you're up. No. All right, I'm back. Okay, well, that's the argument. Over a career, I think, personally, Randy Couture did do a lot for UFC and MMA in general, as making it more modern when it became pretty much a big affair. But he was there when Royce Gracie was around, was still around. He was there back in the Vito Belfort days. So that wasn't too far away. He was back in like 6 and 7. He was back there fighting in those times. But when the event was created for Royce Gracie, basically. The Gracies wanted to prove that Royce was the best fighter in the world. So they went all around the world getting fighters to get in this tournament. And they named it the Ultimate Fighting Championship because Royce Gracie was world renowned. Back when it started, it was about martial artists. All these guys, they was masters at a skill of martial arts. And it was a battle to see whose style was the best. You had Kempo. You had all different type of pancrase and all these different type of fighting styles all together of martial arts, which I think now today's form is more like street fighting with a little bit of wrestling. And they just call it mixed martial arts, when I don't see any martial arts whatsoever except for Lyoto Machida, and that's why he's successful. Because he knows martial arts, he knows how to evade and how to strike. Most of these guys don't know how to strike, and they're not used to getting hit, because a lot of them come from more wrestling background than even boxing backgrounds. So they're not used to getting punched in the face, and when they do, they fall apart. And I think Randy Couture made a bigger name for himself in a wider market where those guys were put into the pot. Whether if he fought back in Royce Gracie days with those martial artists, he could have probably ran into a lot of trouble. I would have loved to see him fight Dan Severn. You know, if he'd have fought Dan to beat Severn, I don't think we've been talking about Randy Couture at that time. That's a big guy. Kind of remind me of you, B. Okay, so what is you guys' take on this? I'll start with you, MMA analysis or the boxing / MMA analysis.
Well, Randy was basically in the higher competition UFC days. I say Randy Couture is has the better career because, you know, he has had 5 titles, both at heavyweight and light heavyweight. He's defeated many, like, you know, the high level competition. Nowadays, there's like, you know, many different competition, but it wasn't as high as the UFC competition was back in from like 97, or like he wasn't in the first ones, but like, you know, from like 96 to 2004 to 2005, when he just, like, you know, when he lost to Chuck Liddell. That's basically when his era of his like high competition ended. So I say he has the more legendary career. Royce Gracie, on the other hand, he basically brought Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to mixed martial arts. And he basically, the Gracie name is a big famous name in all of mixed martial arts. If you are mixed martial arts, the first name that comes to mind is Royce Gracie, or the Gracie family. So I still pick Randy Couture with this, mainly because of his the more achievements he has achieved. Even though Gracie has won the first 3 UFC tournaments, defeating Ken Shamrock in the first one. I don't know who he won against I don't know if it was the championship fight of the first one with Ken Shamrock, but I know he defeated Ken Shamrock when he was the beast. He defeated basically every guy you could see with his jiu-jitsu, but I still go with Randy Couture, mainly because of the achievements. So that's my take. Joe, you can go right now. You want to go?
Well, again, I'm not a connoisseur or an aficionado on MMA, but I agree with the MMA analyst, because back in the Gracie days, no one can dispute what the Gracies have done for the sport. They basically invented it. But Randy Couture, I have to say, did have better competition. You know, you couldn't even really remember the other 2 guys that Gracie won, because there weren't a lot of athletes back then. You had the Tank Abbotts, with all due respect, the Chemos back then. Now I think in Randy's day, you could argue that the guys are more skilled, more athletic, there's just a lot more balanced competition, whereas back then you had a few guys that were good because the sport was just coming into its own back then. And there wasn't, I don't believe they had the weight classes back then. Am I correct, MMA analyst?
No,
they didn't have them.
So now the sport's more structured.
Ken Shamrock was like a 200-pound guy, and Royce Gracie is like a welterweight guy, so you can see like the big difference.
Royce was 175, probably
okay.
like beating guys that's 240, 250. It was real. That's why I said they were fighting and it was real. They got rules. You can't do most of the things that you could do back then. They separate them now, so it's made more for a striking event. Where Royce won mostly all of his fights by submission.
Yeah.
And people say, well, nobody wants to wait and see that. His fights, the time limit mostly was 5 minutes. He was submitting these guys within 5 minutes. But the problem was, you gotta let a guy work. They don't allow you to work now. You can't wear the gi. Back then, that's part of a martial arts, a jiu-jitsu's weapon. They use the gi to stay dry, to dry their opponent off so they can't move. They could use it to hold and get grips and tighter holds when they do submission holds. They show you proper ways of how to use the gi as a weapon or pretty much as a helping device when you're doing these jiu-jitsu holds. But you don't see that now because it's not entertaining to some of the people that are watching it now. They just want to see quick results.
I believe back then you could headbutt. Am I correct? Back then there was headbutting.
You can eye gouge him. You can hit him in the balls. You can do whatever you want to win.
Do whatever you
but
want.
Now it's different.
Yeah. So now I think you're almost forced to be more skilled because you can't do a lot of those other tactics. So it's really arguable, and I hate to compare errors and I hate to compare time periods, but I would have to say though that Randy Couture had the better competition. And again, the accomplishments were greater because he had won more titles and he fought in both divisions. So I would at first you would say, the Gracie name just kind of trumps everything. But if you really look at the stats and you look at, what he has done, and I've seen more of Randy than I had of the Gracies too, so maybe that's what's fresh in my mind as well. But I would agree maybe Couture would be the better in terms of accomplishments.
Okay, Couture in his prime versus Royce Gracie in his prime. Who wins? Royce gets to wear his gi.
That's actually a really good one but it just it depends. Like, is Royce at 175 and, Randy's at 205, like what is like his last fight, or is it just like the same weight?
Same weight. It didn't matter for Royce what they weighed.
All right. If I had to choose anyone, I'd still go with Randy Couture. His wrestling, he could do the wrestling. He could use his clinch work, which Royce Gracie, if you watch Royce Gracie's fight with Matt Hughes basically demolished him. Royce Gracie went on his back and just went to back mount, and Matt Hughes just finished it there. So if there was a guy like at 205 going against a guy at 175, it would just be domination. It's not like UFC 1 where Royce Gracie could use, his advantages of the gi. And did you say he's using the gi in this fight?
Yeah, he could use the gi. He's wearing the gi. But also, Royce Gracie was 175 years old when he fought Matt Hughes. He needed a check. So they brought him back just for that reason. It didn't look right when they even doing the promo for it. I was like, someone needed to be arrested for putting that on display. I mean, they threw gloves on Royce Gracie. They threw him on trunks and they put him in a ring and said, undefeated in the UFC, Royce Gracie. And he's looking so lost in the promo. He's just standing there looking like he's wearing gloves without a gi. It's like cutting a cat, shaving a cat, and then sitting him there. And he just don't look right.
I'm still going to go with Randy Couture. Randy Couture is like, his wrestling is just lay on that guy until he stops, or lay on the guy until that guy gets so tired that his defense drops and Randy can just finish the fight by a technical knockout. If you see the fight with Gabriel Gonzaga, he got him to the cage, he wore him out, got him to the cage, did his, signature slam, and just beat on. That sounds wrong, I know, but he just basically punched out Gabriel Gonzaga until he tapped. And I see That's how the end of the fight would be.
We're not down in Randy Couture at all. Randy is a beast at what he does, because I've heard he's got the strongest wrist lock in the UFC. Next to the Nogueiras, he has the strongest wrist lock that anybody. He's like, guys, like, man, I sprained my wrist just trying to snatch my hand away from Randy Couture. He's like a vice grip around your wrist. So, yeah, he's really skilled at what he does, especially breaking guys down and getting them in the ground, and especially to be his age and still have that stamina.
At 47, this guy can probably fight until he is in his 60s from what he does. You see a guy that's Dan Severn. Dan Severn is 52 years old, and he's almost 53, and he's having a fight soon, and if he wins that fight, he'll have 100 wins. And if you see Dan Severn's competition, it's almost like Randy Couture. They're both wrestlers. I don't know who would win, but you see wrestlers do well, and he's a wrestler, and I can see Randy Couture going on and, doing what he does until he gets old.
The wrestlers historically have done better in the UFC, I have to admit. But one thing you want to take into account, in my opinion, I think Randy was a much better fighter at heavyweight than he was at light heavyweight. And as you said, he likes to get on top of guys and control them and kind of get them down and use the ground and pound type technique to win fights. And I think when he's heavier, he was more effective at that. So I think at light heavyweight, that would be a pick'em fight, but I would favor Randy at heavyweight. So that's what I think is a big factor is Randy's weight.
Yeah, we've seen him as he got older.
But still, okay, I do jiu-jitsu myself, and I cannot go with a guy who is 30 pounds heavier than me. See, 175 plus 30, 205. 30 pounds, which is a big difference. When you go against a guy who is 30 pounds over you, you basically can't do one thing. He's a lot stronger, and his weight keeps you down. Basically, you can't bump him off. You can't do anything.
If you study Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, you wouldn't have those problems.
But I think
Royce Gracie with Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes took him down and laid on top of him.
Yep.
Royce Gracie was 175 years old. When he fought Kimbo was 230-something pounds of muscle. Watch that fight on YouTube.
Randy looked so much better at heavyweight, but I think Randy has the most problems with the guys who are strikers and guys who are quick.
Yeah.
And Gracie may not be the greatest of strikers, so that's why I think Randy would have a good time against him. But even still, if Randy's at light heavyweight, he just doesn't seem to be pushing guys around as much as he did at heavyweight, in my opinion.
We've been on my opinion for too long. Why don't we get Joe? Why don't we get more in depth with Joe? It's always been with me now. Basically,
you made great points, but
I don't want to just agree with you just for the sake of agreeing with you, but you made really good points. But my only thing was, I just don't think Randy is as effective at light heavyweight as he was at heavyweight. So if the fight's at light heavyweight, I think it would be a pick and fight. You may slightly favor Randy because, again, he has problems with strikers, and Gracie's not the greatest of strikers. But at heavyweight, it's an easy decision for me to say that Randy would win. So it's hard to say easily when you're talking about the Gracies, but I just think styles makes fights, and I think Randy's style would give
Gracie
a lot of problems because I just think the wrestlers dominate this sport. They really do.
We went back to their younger ages, and Randy Couture was beatable when he was younger. He got better when he got older in age.
Yeah.
So I think Royce made him tap.
Well, you know why? Because Randy became, I feel that Randy became a better striker when he got older because when he first came in, he was all wrestling. And then he started getting that right hand. We saw that in the Sylvia fight when he hit him with the big right hand. He's not the greatest combination puncher, but he's got some power. He can turn them shots over and hurt guys. So.
All right, we're going to cut the video here because we're about to hit a 15-minute mark. But it's been great. Remember to follow MMA Analysis on YouTube and Twitter. Joe Habib, you already know him. He's the legend. And me, I'm just some guy. So, all right, we out here.